Heroes and Legends, Dynasties, Fallen Dynasties. The Banquron recognized Gordon's sacrifice, and the Fedelitians, Baha and Commonwealthens, who have been through hell, follow the royal's leadership without question. The funeral for Gordon Royal was impressive, massive, and expensive. Each one of those powers give what they had a remembrance of Gordon Royal, who has single-handedly defeated Mayor Saria, the greatest, most powerful threat the universe has ever saw. She can be, in fact, being even more powerful than Queen Catherine ever was. Gordon sacrificed his life. Alicia, his sister, and now the leader of the royals, kept his last words closely. Protect the Levants. Ensure the continuation of Linda's plan. That was the key. And now that the majority of the main Banquron powers now unwillingly were unable to say that they were enslaved by the royals, but willingly now their allies and work together with them. This was a good sign. Everything was in place. Now all that was left was to punish their now powerless tormentors. For the Cibic, the Cit Gro, and the Scotian, the militaries was greatly diminished. With the third been gone, they lost power. And now the Banquron were itching for vengeance. They knew that their time was up. They should have slaughtered them much sooner and much faster. Maybe if they was less and they were still more, they could still rule by conventional means. But now the extinction was nigh. The royals, led by the High Lady herself, Alcena Royal, invaded to conquer the Scotian. Along with her was Jacqueline Levant, Therese Levant, Tunde, Ronnie Royal, Alexander. The last forces of the royal forces gathered themselves against Hetama, Susie, General Nolan, Singer Pratt, and Hansot Scotian. Hansot Scotian did not fight with the Scotian during the campaign with the Verbin, but he stayed mostly within the galaxy. He, unlike the others, did not feel as guilty for what he had done. However, he wanted to preserve Scotia. I was feeling discontented with Hetama, who was from another timeline, the last living man from the time disruption. He had led Scotia to ruin, and the ruin was now come. He hoped that he could be spared, but he would fight violently for the sake of his homeland. One by one, the galaxy began to fall and crumble by the weight of the worlds and their knights and the vastness of their forces. He had completely surrounded the main capital planet of the Scotian. Hetama, the Red Warrior, laced up his boots and prepared for war. He then made it past the old guard of the royals and was heading towards Duzana Levant. Duzana was a powerful man. He longed for the wealth of the Scotian, there to go sailing in the races of the Scotian's planets. Beautiful planets, he said. Nice, red, beautiful planets. And so, he gathered what he could, and then he moved with his spear to dodge Hetama's attacks. Hetama was stunned. He didn't realize how skilled Tuzana was, but Tuzana showed his might. And then he junked Hetama. Hetama was stunned, and then Tuzana went for critical blows on Hetama. Hetama then got a last slash on his shoulder. Elsewhere, Susie and Shania Pratt would be made to pay for their sins. Alcena Royal personally cut down Shania Pratt, who was running away scared since she did not have her ice powers. Susie tried to avenge her pupil, but was cut down by Jacqueline Levant, who was not too far behind. General Nolan then saw this and tried to run away, abandoning his post and abandoning his men. Hansot could not allow this treachery to happen. "Nolan," he said, "our men are fighting violently for their lives. For our sake of Scotia, if you run away like a coward," he said, "move. I have enough riches and resources. I could go to the other side of the galaxy and escape and wait for further instructions for myself, of course. One day I shall return. You, a proud warrior, come with me. Before Nolan could move any further, Hansort stabbed Nolan in the gut and said, treachery, abandonment, these are critical sins in the battlefield. I cannot let that stand. Then Nolan then collapsed and died right there. Tunde saw this and was greatly impressed by Hansort's resolve and honor. And she said, you're not like the other Scotian, are you? And he said, no. Back now between Tuzan and Hetema. Hetema collapsed. With him, an end of an era. The end of the old guard of the old age of the universe had passed away. One of the last of the legends of old, now dead. The royals had captured Scotian, and Hansort surrendered, and the rest of the Scotian troops along with him. The royals knew that Hansort was a great and powerful warrior, and she, Alicia, instructed Jacqueline and Duzan to have Hansort, Scotian, under their care. But this was the beginning of a new age. The Fedelitians, Madu, Denea, Kovsun, Janae Koya, and Lazette all prepared themselves for the final battle of the Cit Gro. This was not a conquest battle, this was an extermination. The Cit Gro were old and ancient, and their allies were always the forbidden. Now it was time to eradicate them and take their galaxy and make it theirs. Go Lazette, go Janae Koya, go Kofi Zone, make your king proud. Lazette moved quietly. Then she moved swiftly and loud. Charge! The burning might of the phoenix shall rage supreme and burn and scorch the Cit Gro, and their ashes we will feast on and become even stronger. The Fedelitians were rallied. Whoa! Zuma and Captain Cook were scared. Gina and Claire, all their mechs had been destroyed during the initial war. Now they were defenseless. Gina Koya went for Gina, and Kovsun went for Claire respectfully. Lazette went after Captain Cook and Zuma. Captain Cook tried to defend her husband. Run, my love, run! Zuma cannot watch. Captain Cook was slain instantly by Lazette. Lazette then transformed into a pride form like she did before and said, Phoenix fire! And then she turned into a phoenix bird and flew past Zuma, burning him instantly. And with that, the entire castle of the Cit Gro burned, along with their family, their treasures, and their history. The Cit Gro were all captured and slain. It was an amazing show. With that, the Fedelitians now had the Central and Cit Gro galaxies under their control to expand and to spread their wealth and knowledge. This was indeed the rebirth of the Phoenix. Lastly, we have the Baha-Commonwealthen Alliance, led by Adrian Baha, Nakia, Laurie, George Andrea, Natala Andrea, Apet Alvo Jr., Alice and Alexia von Wright, and Alexio Andrea versus the Cibic forces. The Cibic, unlike all the other two, had the most sin. The Furbin descended from them, and this time the Cibic would be ostracized, never again to even mention the name Furbin again. This was personal. Aaron vowed that he will avenge his father and those that the Cibic mercilessly killed. I'll make you all pay. Crystal and Nitrice and Monique, the scientists, were scared. Child, the cyborg, and Jacqueline, the richest giant, faced their forces to the defense. Bardock also went to the front lines. However, he wanted Penny to escape. Penny vowed that she would fight to the bitter end. However, it was her mage powers and the science of the twins that brought back the Furbin, and her mage powers were the ones that allowed them to go to Baha and slay them. If you are captured, they'll make a pariah of you and you will die. My love, please escape. Go as far away from here as possible. Penny didn't want to go, but she knew that she had allies elsewhere and she could have gone. The only one to escape. They'll chase me. They'll never stop hunting me down, Bardock said. Please, still go. Penny was crying, and she used her mage powers and teleported out there to destinations unknown. Barduk then summoned all his sword skills and the main power that he had left, granted by the Forbidden, to fight off against the enemy. Adrian the Baha and Barduk were fighting. They were two great swordsmen. So it was your blade that slayed my father and mother. Barduk said yes, along with the dead. But now the dead are dead again, and I will not join them. Aaron then said, don't worry, you'll be more than dead when I finish with you. The two men squared off. Joaquin and Chow tried bravely. However, Avo Jr. was too big, and Natalia Andrea rode and threw up Chow, crushing him. Joaquin tried to bribe his way, but Alexia von Wright and Alexio Andrea and Laurie, who had prepared themselves and fought bravely against the Forbidden, and not buying any bribes. They worked together to blast Joaquin straight to hell. He infiltrated the castle and beat back the guards and robots out now defending them. Crystal was determined to run away, but she was cornered by Nikita, who vowed, "You're not going anywhere, you snotty bitch." While that was going on, Natrice and Monique tried to run. However, it was George Andrea that caught them. You two scientists, your brilliant minds were used for evil. But for our side, we could use you, and so we captured them both. Then Nikita then slaughtered Crystal as the last of the Cibic. Crystal had been the leader of the Cibic and was the one in the forefront of bringing back the Forbidden for the power and glory. Crystal was made to pay for her treachery, and like the doctor she served before her, she too died because of greed of power. Only Barduk stand, and Aaron the Baha was fighting bravely. He then used the might of his vengeful resolve. He beat back Barduk. Barduk lost his sword and tried to run and get it, but Adrian then stabbed Barduk in the back. Barduk then jumped off the sword and tried to grab his sword and block Aaron's sword attacks. But Aaron's sword attacks of thrusting was so hard and slamming down, Barduk could only block so much until the sword gave way, and then the last slash Aaron did slice Barduk in half. Blood was everywhere. At the war's end, Aaron was covered in blood. Most of them were. The scientists, Natrice and Monique, were captured. Cibic was now occupied territory of the Baha and Commonwealthen. At long last, all of Banquron were united under the single banner of the Royals, that all now served to the Royal Empire willingly. At last, Banquron space was united under a single power. But did it really had to be this bloody? Did so many lives had to be lost in order to get this far? The answer to that is simple: no.